Eyshe, the floor is yours, and I'll be back at the end of the class for announcements.
Okay, dank. Shalom Aleichem, euch alles. Es ist wie allemal fangen nach zu sehen. Und nu, wir können dann eben, heute haben wir 3 Aufgaben. Ja, was ist eine Aufgabe? Die Aufgabe, wer weiß, was das heißt, eine Aufgabe?
That's 3.
Die Aufgabe.
Ufgaba. Well, a gaba is the head. Gaba is the head, right? The head of, no?
Nu,
So,
Aufgabe heißt, Aufgabe heißt,
3.
Aufgabe heißt Task.
Task. Can you hide
Task.
Task.
Yeah, task.
Okay.
It's in the chat, Lily.
Okay.
And if you're on your
Is it assignment too? Or because I just went to the Google Translate, it says the assignment. So task assignment.
It can mean assignment. I'm also gonna say Google Translate for Yiddish is one of the most horrible, frightening things I have ever seen in my life. Just speaking as a Yiddish, so my advice to you is we're welcome to talk about dictionaries, but Google Translate will lead you astray. Just like it will. Unfortunately, I wish it was better, but it is really
Allemaal fragdulair.
yeah.
It's a wonderful thing for many languages, not only Yiddish. So
yeah. It's very.
Once I tried to translate English to Russian, and I see what it translated to me. So I thought, wow. And I think Google Translate doesn't know English and doesn't know Russian either.
Ja, nu, Heint haben wir 3 Aufgaben. Wir werden praktizieren unser Schmues, Wade wie allemal. Und ich will zuhören. Was heißt zuhören?
To listen, to hear about.
Und ich will zuhören zu euren Fragen, wegen eurer Lebens, wegen was es soll nicht sein. Und nachdem werden wir praktizieren euch ein bisschen Grammatik. Ich habe ein bisschen Grammatik, was ich will lernen heint. Und das ist der jiddische Satz, Wörterseder. Wir werden reden wegen dem später. Word order, ja. Und für unsere dritte Aufgabe habe ich ein paar Lieder, was wir wollen hochgeben und durchschmussen und erwarten lernen zusammen. Und die Lieder kommen von einer Dichterin, was heißt Kadia Molodowsky. Emetzer kennt schon Kadia Molodowsky? Nein? Nu, wir werden reden wegen ihr später euch. Nu gut. Okay. Nu, zu uns zu heben, werden wir reden wegen unserer Lebens, wegen was wir tun, wegen was wir machen, was wir haben gehört, was soll nicht sein. Gittel, was machst du, Heinz? So.
Ich mach gut. Ich habe gehabt eine gute Woche. Die andere Woche aber der Child und der Wetter ist gewesen sehr schein. Aber Heinz ist besser wie die andere Woche. Es ist ein Sommer. Es ist ein Sommer. So Heinz bei Nacht geht mein Mann und mir zu the orchestra, symphony orchestra, Heinz.
I will see you there.
Oh, die guy sprechen mit der ballet, mit der Jaffrey ballet.
Yes.
Okay, mit der Zee, mit der dort. Ja.
Yeah.
So this is good. And on Sonntag, me fuhrt zum Medicine noch einmal zu sehen Kinder und eigene Kinder.
Sehr schön.
Das
Sehr
ist-
schön.
ja.
Gut. Orchestra auf Yiddish, der Orchester.
Der
Orchester. Orchestra.
Symphony is symphony? Symphony? Symphony?
I would probably say Symphonia, die Symphonia, but I don't know if that's right. That might just be.
Symphonic, maybe it becomes symphonic orchestra.
Ja,
Okay.
wie ich habe es gehört, ich meine, es ist einfach Symphonia, Symphonic after, but Symphonia.
Symphonic is the noun, like the composition. You know, symphonia was better.
Yeah, if you wanted to say symphonic orchestra, you might say Symphoniker Orchester after.
Yes. Ich kenne
Ja, das ist eine gute Frage. Ich weiß nicht, in der Remsen, weil ich rede nicht gewöhnlich wegen Orchesters auf Jiddisch. Gut, aber das ist eine gute Sache. Und dann Lilly, was machst du?
Danke, ich bin okay. Ich gehe today, no, ich gehe, I will say today, eint euch mit meinem Mann zu der Konzert, gehe zu, ich will gehen spazieren, ich lieb not too far from the orchestra, how to say, nicht sehr
nicht so weit, nicht so weit, nicht sehr
weit von der Orchestra, so wir will gehen one way, I will say we will go one way, wir will gehen
was wirst du sagen, wenn du sagst one way?
There's one side, the other side, it's not very safe in Chicago, unfortunately, you can't walk. So
Einsatz.
Gehen Einsatz.
Auf ein Seite oder auf ein Weg? Ja.
Einsatz, wir will spazieren, aber zurück, wir will müssen zu nehmen ein Taxi oder Autobus.
A balagala.
It's nicht sehr gut in Chicago. It's when it's dark. I will say dark. When it's dark, you can't. It's kind of dangerous to walk. How would you
Wenn es
say?
ist dunkel, wenn es ist dunkel.
At Nacht.
Wenn es dark, wenn es dunkel.
Wenn es ist dunkel, ja, das heißt dark.
Dunkel. When it's dunkel, we can use day. Okay.
Sehr schön.
But that's it.
Ja, gut zu wissen. Ja, ich hab geschrieben ein paar Sachen, was ich habe gehört, was ist öfter nützlich für alle. Der Konzert, ja, es ist ein Konzert. Joachim hat gesagt Balagula. Was ist ein Balagula, Joachim?
If English, it's a wagon driver, but it was always used colloquially for a taxi driver or a bus driver.
No, yeah.
I have a different thing about Balagula. About the person, Balagula, kind of a simple man, you know. Balagula, he is not refined. When you say about the person, in Hebrew also, I think they use it, Balagula, he's not refined.
Yeah,
No.
maybe in Hebrew it's some kind of poyer, but in American Yiddish it's not a degrading thing at all. In fact, there's a shul in Chicago that was called the Balagalisha Shul, where all the wagon drivers gathered for a very early minyan by Shagrit.
That's
It's
true. It comes
honorable
from
in
Hebrew.
English.
From Hebrew, Balagala, owner of carriage. You're right.
Right,
So that's how
master
that's
of the wagon,
origin.
master of the carriage.
Yeah. But Balagula is not a
All right,
nice.
so in Israel, I won't use the term.
Don't.
Ja, Balagula heißt, das ist der Führer von einer Gula, von einer Chaussee, von einer, was soll es sein? Das heißt, it's like a wagon driver, und Tunkel heißt dark, you know, Tunkel heißt dark. Gut. Und Joachim, was machst du? Es ist schön, dich zu sehen.
Ich habe zwei Aufgabes letzter Woche. Eins, am Sonntag ist gewesen ein Mabul in my Dira, a Lex von einem Sink, Upgas. Und ich darf ein neues Deal. So, taglich ist der Arbiter in einem Dira zu machen ein new deal, a new deal. Und alles gut now, Baruch Hashem. Alles gut. Und der andere Aufgabe ist, jeder Shabbos, ich mache Drush bei Chicago Loop Synagogue. Und ich habe geschrieben und how do you say researched?
Forschen.
Hab geforschen.
Ich habe geforscht.
Ich habe geforschen, Rashi, Maimonides, andere Chumashim mit andere Notes. Und das ist 10 Uhr zu machen. Und der Drush ist 5 Minuten.
Ja, es ist eine Sachzeit. Ja, aber Mazel Tov auf der Forschung.
Danke.
Ja, und ich habe geschrieben ein paar Sprachbemerkungen. So, etwas wichtig ist, auf Jiddisch sagt man gewöhnlich Sonntag, ja, nicht Sonntag, was ist Deutschisch, ja, Sonntag ist öfter besser auf Jiddisch. Täglich, ob wir will sagen daily, wir können sagen täglich oder tagtäglich, ja, die beiden.
Ja.
Täglich oder tagtäglich. Ob wir will machen eine Dusche mit darschend. Das heißt, that's the verb I've written in the middle of this list here. It comes from this. I'll write it again. Darschen. Das heißt, zu machen eine Dusche. Darschen. Und Avada kommt das von Hebräisch. So it's not spelled using our normal rules. It's spelled using Hebrew. Darschen. Forschen heißt to research. The past tense is haben geforscht. Ich hab geforscht. Du hast geforscht. Hat geforscht. Und so weiter. A note is a Notiz. Der Notiz. Or die Notizen. Der Notiz. Die Notizen.
Notice?
Yeah, that's a note, like a note you would write down. Der Notiz.
Yeah.
Der Notiz.
And Forschen, was sind in der Oasis?
It's in the chats. Forschen is bei Kommenzahle Schien langer nun. Forschen. Und das heißt to research. Ich forsch jiddische Literatur. Ja. Gut. Und Mark, was machst du?
Let's see. Was ist nein? Ich kann sagen, ich habe eine Frage.
Was ist deine Frage?
Mein Weib vielleicht wohnen in andere Plätze. Sie kommt zu Chicago und sie hat Menschen sagen Kishki and Laki. Is das a Chicago-Sach?
Nu, das ist eine gute Frage. Es mistome, okay, das ist ein gutes Wort für uns. Die Hashpoe. Was heißt die Hashpoe? Mit zu weiß, was keine Hebräisch.
Influence.
Ja, influence. Ja, die Hashpoe heißt influence. Ja, influence. Das ist, ja, Kishki, Latki, das ist mistome. Was heißt mistome?
Maybe, probably.
Yeah. Mistome is more probable than Efsher. Yeah. So Efsher is maybe below 50%. Mistome is above 50% probability.
Probably.
Yeah. So das ist mistome a hashpoe von Polish. Do in Chicago. As es ist möglich, als die Poljaken sagen, sie sagen Latki oder Kishki.
In Russisch is the same.
Ja.
Many probably Eastern European.
Ja, aber es ist eine Wade, ja, es sagt polnische Menschen, was wohnen in Chicago. No, also was ist in der Emerson die Hashpoe? Ich weiß nicht, aber das ist möglich. Ja, ob Emerson weiß besser wie ich. So, aber no, also ich meine, das ist
Makes sense.
Aber was? Ja, gut, danke. Mark, du hast noch eine Frage?
Say again?
Do you have another question? Du willst noch etwas fragen? Nein, gut.
Danke.
Schöne, danke. Anthea, was machst du?
Ich mach gut. Du ist gewesen ein ganzer, du weißt die Wort La Pizza.
Nein, das
Nein. Okay. Ganze La Pizza. Du weißt, in Florida haben uns gehoben, was ist ein Hurricane?
A hurricane auf Yiddish?
Ja.
Hurricane. I could be wrong. Let me look that up.
Ja, ich
habe nicht gehabt Zeit zu looken it up. Ich habe gelaufen.
Der Huragan.
Evacuated?
Ich habe zu sagen, Hooligan. Okay. A hooligan. Like a hooligan. Like a hooligan. A hooligan. Okay.
Mit der Reich. Hooligan.
Hooligan. Okay, hooligan.
Mit Reich.
Hooligan. Die Meister von die Städte haben gesagt, uns muss gehen.
Ja.
Wo uns wohnt, ist auf dem Wasser. So alle Buildings auf dem Wasser muss gehen.
Ja.
So, das ist, sie haben gesagt, uns muss gehen hastig.
Ja.
Quickly. Und zu uns hat gegangen zu Malone. Was ist ein Hotel in Yiddish? Ein Malone?
A hotel, sagt man?
A hotel, okay.
Ja,
so uns ist gegangen zu einem Hotel 40 Meilen weg von dem Wasser.
Oh, wow.
And das ist like a mini vacation.
Oh, ja.
Und Heint haben sie gesagt, als die Hurrikan nicht gekommen zu unserer Zeit, uns können zurückkommen. So Heint haben wir zurückgekommen nach Heim.
Gut.
So, das ist eine Pizza in meiner Welt.
Gut, ich bin zufrieden, was du bist gesund und was du hast nicht gedacht, bleiben inmitten Hurrikan und euch, was du hast gehabt, die Gelegenheit zurückzugehen. Das ist schön und ich bin euch zufrieden, was du bist da mit uns. Sei wie viele beschasse Hurrikan. Ich habe beschrieben ein paar Sachen in Schmutzkästel. Die erste Sache ist sagen, ja, to say, the past tense, haben gesagt.
Haben gesagt.
So, ich habe gesagt, du hast gesagt, er hat gesagt, wir haben gesagt und so weiter. Und kommen takes sein and not haben. So, ist gekommen, du bist gekommen, ist gekommen, ich bin gekommen, wir sind oder seien gekommen und so weiter. Just small things to be aware of. Ja, sehr schön. Und Gendele, was machst du?
It's good. Es ist a guten Woche for me. And yesterday is Nächten
Yesterday.
Nächten ist gekommen zu die Sportsaal zu schwimmen in dem Bassin.
In dem Pool.
In dem Pool. Bassin?
Ja, Pool auf Yiddish. Das ist eine gute Frage.
Bassin.
Bassin ist möglich. Ja, also ja. Ich höre, wenn Menschen reden wegen Pool, sagen sie, es ist ein Pool, wenn ich habe es gehört.
Schwimmbassin?
Zu schwimmen in dem Pool.
Ja, no, Bassin ist gut. Also ich meine, es ist der Schwimmbassin. Ja, ich nutze es nicht, aber F-Sure. Ja, nutze es auch.
Wasser ist Wasser, okay, and then Bassin
Sehr schön. Du hast lieb zu schwimmen?
Gegangen zu Spritzimmer?
Das Sauna?
Ja, Sauna.
Schwitzzimmer.
Schwitzzimmer.
Ja.
This is good. And ich habe geschwimmen für ich habe geschwimmen für mein Stadtdistrikt Mannschaft zurück in ein alter Land, in Moskau. Zurück als 8 Jahre ago.
Mit der Sache ja zurück.
Mit der Zahl Jahre zurück, ja.
Sehr schön.
Ich habe eine Frage für Gendele. Wie gehst du keine Schwitzzimmer? Wo gehst du kein Schwitzzimmer, ein Schwitzbad? Wo gehst du?
Wo ist der Schwitzzimmer?
Where is the Schwitzzimmer? In the Sportsaal. In
was?
In the Sportsaal in Arlington Heights.
A sports hall.
Like a
Sport gym. I think a gym is a Sportsaal.
Okay.
Sportsaal is a gym. No.
Ja, Gym, Sportsaal, Gymnastiksaal, Gym.
Gymnasium.
no,
Gymnasium.
Gymnasium is a school.
It's
Gymnasium.
a school, but if you want to say gym, you will probably say the Sportsaal.
Ja, Sportsaal, Gymnastiksaal, you make it Es ist nur eine Sachwörter. Für solche Sachen, man hat nicht bestimmte jiddische Wörter für sie, weil es ist in der Emerson eine amerikanische Sache. Und für solche Sachen, ja, für solche Sachen sagt man gewöhnlich Pool, Gym. Und ob man will schaffen jiddische Wörter für sie, ist es möglich. Ich habe gehört, Gymnastiksaal, Sportsaal, und Bassin, ja, ich meine, dass das existiert. Pool, habe ich gerade gehört.
Bassin comes from Russian. Bassin is swimming.
Ja,
Yes.
ja. No, das heißt, dass die Binyonim, der Binyan, was ist ein Binyan? Was ist ein Binyan?
Building.
A building, ja, gut. Der
Ja,
Binyan.
Das ist ein hebräisches Wort.
Ja, der Binyan, es ist Jiddisch, aber es kommt von Hebräisch, warte. Und der Binyan, die Binyonim, Binyonim, was sind neu geschaffte Binyonim heißt es, sind ein bisschen fremd zu Jiddisch. Das heißt, dass man darf machen neue Wörter und es ist nicht allemal stimmt, was man soll sagen. Nun, gut. Aber ja, Gymnastiksaal, Sportsaal, das arbeitet. Ja, das ist gut. Und du hast lieb zu schwimmen, gerne.
Und
du hast lieb zu schwimmen?
Ja, ich habe lieb geschwimmen. Ich geschwimmen für 40 years. I've been swimming for 40 years.
40 Jahre.
40 years.
40 Jahre schwimmst du. Sehr schön. Sehr schön. Gut. Lily, du hast gewollt etwas fragen?
Yes. The word Schweizer comes probably from Schweiz.
Yeah.
But it has completely different connotation. Also, to me, the way I know it, Schweizer is also negative. Someone who is boasting.
No, I don't think Schweizer is a negative. Schweizer is something who like to show off. So
that's right. That's how I know.
Nicely dressed fella who show
just likes to show off. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
in many fields. Yeah, but it comes from Schweiz.
Yeah, and it has been used in Yiddish literature a lot. If you read Shalom Aleichem and Mochen's Freuyers, you would see where you talk about Schweizer. And we talk.
It's used in Hebrew too, but it comes from Yiddish, I assume.
Yeah, it's come from Yiddish. It's Sorry.
Nein, sag nicht kein Sorry. Gut, das ist alles gut zu wissen. Und ja, ich meine, was habe ich gehabt? Ich arbeite ein bisschen Pamellichkeit. Was heißt das, Pamellich?
Slowly.
Gut, slowly. Gut, ein bisschen Pamellichkeit. Nun gut. Das ist schön. Ich meine es, zu lieb der Zeit, ich darf reden noch ein bisschen wegen Wörterzeder. Ich soll euch übergeben. Was heißt das, übergeben?
Tell it to you.
Yeah, explain parts to you, übergeben. Mehr wegen Wörterzeder auf Jiddisch. Was wird gewähnt für a review für einzige zwischen euch und schon nützlich für andere. Und nachdem wir wollen arbeiten mit die Molodowsky Lieder, was ich habe verheint mitgebracht. Nun gut. Das heißt, ich will nehmen mein Tabo und wir wollen reden wegen Wörter Seder. Nun gut. Sie kann sein, als für die, wo sind aufgewachsen mit Jiddisch, Wörter Seder ist eine natürliche Sache. Ja, man darf nicht reden, man darf nicht trachten zu viel wegen Wörter Seder, which Jochnen ist erwartet gewinn richtig, heißt Word Order auf Jiddisch. Wörter Seder, der Seder heißt Order. Der Seder. Order. Ja, es kommt von Hebräisch. Ja, Seder. Good, so Wörter Seder, literally word order. Now, gewöhnlich, and I'm also going to explain this too in English. So usually in Yiddish, word order can be thought of as existing in three parts in a typical Yiddish sentence. There's something called der erste Ort, der zweite Ort, and der dritte Ort. Has anyone heard of this terminology before? First position, second position, third position? Good. Sehr schön.
I have not.
Okay, good. Let's talk about it because this is important for how we build a Yiddish sentence, and we'll work on this more, especially as we read and talk. Essentially speaking, the Yiddish sentence is split into three component parts: the first, second, and third position, and each position can hold different parts of the sentence. And every Yiddish speaker, if they've grown up with Yiddish or learned Yiddish or whatever it is, has an intuition to which words should go in which specific position. But of course, you can play with it, and of course, you can change things, and we're going to talk about what that looks like. The kind of typical word order is something you're definitely already aware of. So, for example, if we have a sentence like Ich leyen a Buch. This is a very simple, typical Yiddish sentence. Ich leyen a Buch. In first position, we have what? Was is ich?
I.
Subject.
Good. Our subject. Ja, gut. Subject. So ich is unser Subject. You know? Leyen, was is leyen? Das is in second position.
That's the verb.
Ja.
Verb.
Das is unser Verb. And then in third position, we have was is da.
Direct object.
Yeah, it's our object. Third position can also hold just anything that's in the predicate, so anything that's after the verbal clause, right? So anything that comes after, it could be an object, it can be more information. We might think of the predicate as kind of the rest of the sentence. So once we've dealt with the first and second position, the predicate has basically everything else. This is the structure of a basic Yiddish sentence. Now, what if I wrote a sentence like this? A Buch leyenich. A Buch leyenich. Is this correct or incorrect?
I think it's
Sounds
correct.
poetic.
Yeah, it's
poetic.
completely correct. It's completely fine Yiddish. But you'll
But-
notice. Mostly.
But it's a different a little bit if I would translate, and I am in a translation business kind of, but I would translate it a Buch leyenich. Do I read a book? Kind of.
Exactly. So it does have a different meaning, but syntactically speaking, grammatically speaking, it makes it's perfectly fine for a Yiddish sentence to look this way. Now, what you all are identifying, Yochanan, Lily, and others, is that the order of a Yiddish sentence also changes what we're emphasizing in the sentence itself. Usually speaking, whatever comes first is most emphasized in a Yiddish sentence. That kind of makes sense. It's what you hear first, and as you talk, it's what you're going to think about first. It's what's called der Trop. Der Trop in Yiddish, that's the stress or the emphasis. Der Trop. It's where melekt dem Trop. It's the stress or emphasis on the part of the word. So, for example, if I say ich leyen a Buch, the emphasis is on what I am doing. Ich leyen a Buch. If I say a Buch leyenich, Lily is exactly correct. It's a new nuance. The emphasis has changed. Perhaps it's in response to the question, oh, what are you reading? Oh, a Buch leyenich. A Buch, was leyenst du? Oh, a Buch leyenich. You're responding to the question by emphasizing the answer. A Buch leyenich. And what's happening here is that we're exposing a really, really, really crucial part of Yiddish grammar, which is that positions 1 and 3 can often be interchanged with one another. Things that go in position 3 can often go in position 1. But you'll notice between these two examples, what has not moved? This is outlining kind of a sacred rule of the Yiddish sentence, which is that, and now I'm putting a large asterisk on this because we're going to talk about cases this isn't the case, But the sacred rule of the Yiddish sentence, the thing that every part of a sentence revolves around in Yiddish, is your verb. For now, we're going to think of this as the verb always goes in second position. It doesn't matter what you're emphasizing. It doesn't matter what you're talking about. The conjugated verb, the verb that you're changing, the conjugated verb always goes in second position. It doesn't matter if you're saying ich lein a buch or a buch lein ich. The verb stays right there smack dab in the middle of your sentence or in second position. Now, here's where we complicate this a little bit. You might be familiar with this. This might make intuitive sense. If you want to change the position of the verb, we are now moving not just from changing emphasis, changing nuance. Now we are actually changing the entire meaning of the sentence. The movement of the verb in Yiddish is the most drastic thing you can do to the meaning of your sentence. It's the first thing a Yiddish speaker is going to hear. So if you move your verb, you want to be really confident you know why you're moving your verb. Otherwise, you're going to not be saying what you think you're saying. So a good example of this is, what happens if I put the verb first?
A question, no?
It becomes out of the many things that can become, it becomes a question. Am I reading the book? The entire meaning of the sentence changes. The same thing when you lanes to a buch, which is a very different sentence than du lanes the buch. One conveys certainty, one conveys doubt. One conveys a question. So if we violate that sacred rule of the Yiddish sentence that the verb goes in second position, we have to have a really good reason to do it. One of those reasons is that you're asking a question. So if you're asking a question, you can absolutely move the verb.
So basically, in Yiddish, you can define the question by putting the verb in the beginning, like in English, because English is using the same thing. So, but also asking the question in Yiddish, should you, in English you always have to follow the structure. The verb should be in the beginning, but in Yiddish, the intonation could define the question for that matter. It's not necessarily.
Intonation is another problem. You could theoretically have a question that's defined by intonation, but 90% of the time in Yiddish, when you're asking a question, 99% of the time, when you're asking a question in Yiddish, you're going to move your verb to the first position.
Yeah. So basically, it's the same structure like in English. Yeah. So basically, because in English, if you're asking a question, you always have to put a verb.
No, but you said, do you read the book?
I agree with you, Genela, in kind of a little bit. I'm scared of relating this to English because there are lots of what's going on here that is not at all similar to English grammar.
Okay,
I just want it to be clear in everyone's heads that this is a different language, and although like in English you do have things like do you read or were you there, those sorts of things do occur, but the entire idea of positionality in a sentence is foreign to English. We don't have it. The English sentence does not work like this.
So at least what I recall hearing growing up is that questions often had either new added as an enclitic at the end of the sentence or T at the beginning to kind of emphasize the interrogative nature of the sentence. So, gehst du kein Schul? No. See, gehst du kein Schul? This is what I recall hearing.
And Jochen is exactly correct. So outside of the first, second, third position, there are other things we can add to the sentence that give it more nuances or make our meaning clear, but are outside of this 1, 2, 3 structure. They're outside of it. So an example of this is C. This word C. I've just written it in the chat. C. C conveys, it marks a question, but in particular, it marks a yes or no question. So if you're asking someone a yes or no question in Yiddish, you can put C in the front, and it makes it clear to the listener that you're asking them, ich do something, or nein, ich don't do something. So in Joichen's example, if I asked Gittel, Sie gehst du zum Markt? Yo, I would be expecting from Gittel a yo, ich gehe zu Mark, or nein, ich gehe nicht zu Mark. Yo?
To say that again.
Yo, for example, C, I'll write it in the chat as well. C, gehst du?
Can you write it down, please?
He gates to.
Yo, I can also write it out. C, gehst du?
Okay.
Are you going to the store or to the market? Yeah.
So again, ich gehe to market. Yeah.
Evade. So the C just marks a yes or no. But so something to keep in mind is that all parts of our sentence occupy one of these positions, first, second, or the third, which is also just the rest of the sentence. Words that don't occupy these places are conjunctions. So things like un, ober, as. Oh, apologies, I'm getting a call. Those are things like un, ober, as, oder, weil. Any sort of conjunction in Yiddish does not take up the 1, 2, or 3 place. These are things that are between sentences. They're not a part of the sentence structure. Lily.
I have a question. See, gaze to is already you are going. So you have the you.
So in the example of tsigestu, what is actually marking the question is the movement from geist to the front of the sentence. That is what's actually marking the question. All tsi is doing is making it clear to your listener that you're looking for a yes or no response from your question. Tsi gehst du zum Markt? Yo.
The example with reading a book, how would you say this with the tsi?
Well, you might not use this.
No, use the C.
You might not use C in this case, but if you were to use this sentence and you wanted to ask, I don't know, a question for whatever reason, am I reading a book? You would then say, Lein ich a Buch? But a better example would be if I was asking you, Lily, are you reading a book? Leinst du a Buch?
Leinst du.
The verb goes right in the beginning, and that is what marks the question. If I decide to say, Sie leinst du a Buch, then all I'm doing is marking the question as a yes or no question. Sie leinst du a Buch? Yo, ich lein a Buch. Nein, ich lein nicht kein Buch.
And we haven't mentioned this, but we also just inverted from du leinst a book to leinst du. That also marks it as a question.
The movement of the verb to the front, right?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So the verb gets moved to the front to mark the question. That's kind of the main point here. That when we have our basic sentence structure, right, of subject, verb, object, whatever, and sometimes we can put the object in the front. We can even put other things in the front of a sentence. But what usually never moves is our verb. If we decide to move our verb, we need to do it with a really good reason, because we're going to drastically change the meaning of our sentence. In the first case, if a verb is moved to the front, it can mean a question. Usually it does. It can also mean other things. For example, often when people narrate stories, they will move the verb to the front. And by doing so, the entire tone of their story changes character. It becomes a long story, a narration. The verb is continuously at the front. This might look something like, Moishele geht zu Mark, kauft Sach Bananas, ich weiß nicht, schwimmt in Jam, fährt auf der Gas, etc., etc. By putting the verb at the front, it just implies a narrated story. That's another example of the verb being moved to the front.
Moishele before. The first verb was Moishele.
Moishele is a name. So Moishele Gates. Well, because in the first sentence, it's not a story yet, right? It's just the first introductory sentence. So the rest of the sentences, you might move the verb to the front. That happens. Another example of when you might move the verb to the front is to convey cause and effect. So if a verb you're saying is an effect of a previous sentence you just said, you can also put the verb in the front of the second sentence. So a good example of this might be, ich studiere für meine Examens. Ich studiere für meine Examens, habe ich bekommen ein A. Ja, ich studiere für meine Examens, habe ich bekommen ein A. So these two sentences imply cause and effect, a cause and effect. Yeah. So I'm studying for my exams. Ich studiere für meine Examen. And the second sentence, by putting the verb in front, implies a causal relationship. So because I studied, I received an A. Hab ich bekommen an A. Yeah.
You have hope ich. So ich to me is still I. I receive an A.
It is. So what's happening here? I'll write this out here.
So the
So what's
verb is
happening
not
is-
there first.
The verb is first. It's hub. Yeah, it's hub.
Hope. Have.
Yeah. So hub is the verb that's first. Yeah. So hub ich bekommen an A. Yeah. It's also just the past tense. Yeah. You might also say bekomme ich an A. You know, if you want to use the present tense. Bekomme ich an
Did
A.
you write it down?
So we'll review this a little bit more now, and then I also want to get to these poems. But the most important part of me introducing word order now is that you guys can let it kind of sit in your minds for a little bit, and we're also going to see it pop up more and more as we work more with the Yiddish sentence. But I just want to introduce this concept of word position because it's going to appear and appear again. So to give you an example, let's try a sentence like this. Du schreibst Lieder. Du schreibst Lieder. What if I rewrote this sentence as
Lieder schreibst du.
Lieder schreibst du? What does this sentence mean?
Question, do you write songs?
You write songs.
Oh, be careful.
No.
Is it a question?
No.
Lieder schreibst du?
No, it's not a question. It's do you write poem?
Now, you
It's
could
songs that you write.
conceivably. So let's pause for one moment. You could conceivably ask a question like this, but let's say this is not a question. You know, if I say Lieder schreibst du, what does that mean?
So it emphasizes that it's Lieder that you schreibe and not books.
Good. So what if I had a sentence like this? I'm going to rewrite the first sentence as Du schreibst Lieder Heinz. What does this mean? Du schreibst Lieder Heinz.
Today.
You're writing them today.
You write songs today.
Today.
What if I wrote Heinz schreibst du Lieder?
Today.
Same thing.
Today you were writing
writing
songs.
songs.
We're writing songs.
No. So what's the
Same
difference?
thing.
Well, is it the same thing? What's the difference between
But
the first?
the order is different, but it means the same.
But the emphasis is on today, is the day
Good.
that you're doing it.
Good,
today.
Gittel, yeah. What does like? So in the first example, it's kind of a general sentence with the emphasis kind of on you, right? It's just what you're doing today. Yeah. In the second example, you are marking clearly that you're emphasizing Heint as opposed to another option, which might be yesterday or another tomorrow. Was soll nicht sein? You're emphasizing Heint. Yeah. But you'll notice in all of these examples, what has remained in the exact same position?
The verb.
Verb.
Verb. So let's try this.
Schreibst Lieder.
Schreib
Schreibst
du.
Schreibst du Lieder Heinz? No,
No,
das ist eine Frage.
Schreibst du Lieder Heinz?
Schreibst
Well,
Lieder.
So,
Are you writing
What-
today?
what does this mean?
Are you writing today's songs?
You're writing songs or poetry today. And what's the only thing that has changed from this sentence and the sentence a little bit above it right here?
One is schreibst du schreibst Lieder heim.
Yeah.
One is positive and
Mhm.
one is a question. No?
Well, and what's changed between the two?
Schreibst du. Du schreibst.
Yeah.
schreibst.
The position of schreibst has changed. Yeah, it's the only noticeable feature between these two sentences. I'm
Yeah.
gonna write the one in the middle. Yeah. The only noticeable difference between these two sentences is du schreibst Lieder heint and schreibst du Lieder heint is that in the second case, schreibst is moved to the front. This, in most circumstances, marks it as a question. Yeah. Now, something to keep in mind is that almost anything in a Yiddish sentence can go in first position, just depending on what you want to emphasize. So I could even add more words to this. I could say, for example, I don't know, gute Lieder schreib ich heint. Yeah, you could put as much information you want in first position as long as it's one idea. Yeah, as long as it's one idea. You wouldn't in Yiddish write gute Lieder heint schreib ich, because then what happens then? I'm going to write that out.
It sounds as if you're talking to the leader.
What'd you say on that?
It sounds as if you're talking to the leader when you say it that way.
Oh yeah, it does a little bit. It does a little bit. But yeah, but that's actually a really good observation. But what's
Not a good
also
wordplay
here,
with that.
yeah, what's also happening here is that all of our positions are getting out of whack. Yeah, you'll notice that what can occupy a position? One idea. You know, linguistically, it's called an argument. That's kind of a confusing term, I find. But it's one idea. And by idea, I mean that's a noun and all of its adjectives. It's an adverb. It is an object. Whatever occupies one idea in a sentence can go in each position. Yeah. So Lieder and gute Lieder can go in first position. But the second I have gute Lieder and heint together, that's two positions filled up. We've broken the cardinal rule of Yiddish with our verb in second position, and now the sentence doesn't mean anything. Or, as Anthea pointed out, it sounds like you're addressing the leader as if they were. Yeah. So this is the kind of general idea of the Yiddish sentence that I'm going to introduce now, and we're going to work on it more as we think about how we can build sentences and put them together. Łscki?
I'm sorry, but I have to leave. So.
Oh, yo, seid gesund.
So Zane, maybe
let's see each other downstairs during
intermission.
Yeah, during intermission, near the candies downstairs.
Downstairs, okay, on the main floor. Okay, yeah. So Zane.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Seid gesund. Here's what we're also going to do now.
Hey, Eyshe,
yeah,
I'm sorry, I know you've still got some stuff you want to cover, but
yeah,
one of the things about spoken Yiddish, at least in my family, is that sometimes a straight out declarative sentence would be used to ask a question only through tone of voice.
That can happen. Absolutely. That can happen. What's important to remember. So we'll give an example of that. Something like, du leinst the Buch. You might kind of have that emphasis, or like, du leinst the Buch kind of thing. That can happen. That can happen. What I am underlining here is that the Yiddish sentence is made of these little positional parts.
Right.
That can either work together very harmoniously and produce a really, really playful language with which all of you can have a lot of fun moving things in different positions and creating new ways of expressing yourself. But the most important thing is just understanding how those positions work together, or else you risk not being understood. Yeah. And what I'm getting at about moving the verb is that in almost all Yiddish sentences, the verb will come second. And then if you move it, if you decide to move it, I'm trying to empower you to know what that will do with your sentence.
And actually, it's been an excellent presentation.
Good. Genela, du willst etwas fragen.
No, I'm good.
Oh, I thought I saw your hand. Someone raised a hand? Maybe.
I just moving hands all the time. I'm Jewish.
No. It's a Yiddish class. So of course, we're going to talk with our hands. That's totally fine. So here. So before we go, because I definitely want to get to some poetry really quickly. And we're gonna talk more about word order, and I'm gonna send some more out too when we in an email. But what I really want to do, oh, sorry. Okay, we're gonna very quickly read some poetry together. These are some of the most famous Kinderlieder in all of kind of Yiddish literary history. These are written by a woman who you all should know. Her name is Kadia Molodowsky. Kadia Molodowsky. She is a Polish-Jewish Yiddish writer. She was born in Lublin, I believe. And she actually spent the majority of her life as a Hebrew teacher. But one of her biggest joys in life was writing literature, and she's written some fantastic novels. And she also is most probably well known for her poetry, both children's poetry and especially after the Holocaust, she became known as one of the kind of biggest names in post-Holocaust Yiddish poetry. And we can talk about that another day too, if you'd like. Her poetry is really moving. But here I wanted to look at some pretty foundational children's poetry, specifically because as Yiddish speakers, you should know it because they pop up a lot, but also because they're a joy, and it's a great introduction to Kadia, and also because I want to also make sure I include some more Yiddish literature. So at any rate, this is a famous poem called Shichalech. And actually, now that I'm looking at it, I'm thinking we might do the next poem because we're running out of time. Is anyone familiar with the poem or the song Marzipans? Marzipans? Okay, super famous. It's in a lot of Yiddish school curriculums. It's a pretty kind of like anyway, we'll just dive into it really fast. So here, I'm actually going to make this bigger. Let's try this. Yeah. Okay, Gittel, would you like to read the first 4 lines?
Oh, well, Marzipanum, gewein Tata mit a Mama. Der Tata is Dean.
Dean, yeah, Dean.
The Mama is Gerov.
Grob.
Oh, Grob.
Mhm.
Heavy.
Yeah,
The
heavy.
Mama is Grob und in Kinder wie Vav. In Kinder wie Vav.
Wie Bob. Yeah. So wie Bob.
Wie?
So
Und
Kinder wie
Kinder
Bob.
wie Vav.
Wie B-O-B, Bob.
Bob.
Yeah. So
the letzte Wort verstehe ich nicht.
yeah, in ganzen okay. So Bob heißt Bean.
Oh, Bean.
Yeah, Bean. So Kinder wie Bob means Kinder like a bunch of beans. Yeah.
So skinny, like bean.
No, bean in the sense of in a bag of beans. There's a whole lot of.
Oh,
Kinder.
Yeah,
so Kinder a Sach. Yo, Kinder wie Bob means a Sach Kinder. A Kinder as if it was a bag of beans. Yo, you might. So this word Bob is interesting.
Oh,
because
like a bubble. No.
No, that's actually a different word. I wish it was the same. But it's interesting because you might also see it as this word Bobke. And Bobke means a little bean. It can also refer to feces. And
Goat also, species specifically.
Yeah, it's also the roots of the kind of English word bupkis, where you get bupkis from.
Bupkis, like nothing. It's kind of
like Gornish bullshit, nothing.
Bupkis.
Yeah. So at any rate, that's the root of the word, but here it is in its normal habitat, der Bob or bean. So Kinder wie Bob, Kinder like a bag of beans. There's a lot of kids. So given a Tata mit der Mame, der Tata is Dean, he's thin. The Tata is Dean. Die Mame is grob.
Okay.
And Kinder wie Bob. Yochanan, how about the next 4?
wil eens essen knedlach. One's going to eat dumplings or knedlach. It states the second one, Heiderlach. Not sure what that means.
We'll translate it after.
Okay, und die Oistrakterke Hans will Marzipane. The last one eats marzipan.
That's good.
Sehr schön. Sehr schön. So, wil eens essen knedelig, het zweets hedelig.
This is a hedel.
Actually, I'm realizing I might not know. I thought I did. Let me see. Emmet's a vase. What's this haste the hedel?
Yeah.
I actually don't know. I'll look that up.
Sounds
And
like
I'll,
a diminutive of something.
yeah, it probably comes from hoid or hide or something. But
I got a better book here.
Yeah, I just tried in dictionary. I couldn't find it. I can also send you an email with a little research, but I don't actually remember. But anyway, wil eens essen knedelig, het zweets hedelig. It's some sort of food, yeah. Und die Oistrachterke Gane wil a Marzipane. Was heet Oistrachterke?
Trachterke, it's the
Just
little
to think. Oistracht is to think out.
Thinking. Trachterke.
Yeah.
The
Little
thinker.
girl or something.
So
Thoughtful, would be thoughtful.
Trachterke Gane, so.
yeah, so
Thoughtful.
trach does come from this root to think, but it
To
also
think,
has
yeah.
this. It also has this.
Trachterke.
Yeah, it also has this.
Trachterke is making a small thinker, so something.
Well, maybe. So here, look at this. So it also has this prefix ois. You know, so oistrachten means to think outwardly,
Think out.
up,
Yeah.
or to be imaginative. Yo, so an oistrachter is an imaginative one, someone who is imaginative.
Oh,
Oistrachter, and then you're right, Genela. This ke at the end is a diminutive, so it's a female small diminutive. Oistrachterke, meaning she's an imaginative kind of like, what's the word?
Like thought-provoking.
Capricious, maybe. Like, you know, Oistrachterke Chane. She's basically, Chane is the imaginative one of the family.
yeah.
So everyone else wants to eat typical, you know, normal food, but Chane wants to eat a marzipan. No goods. This is a really famous poem, but it looks like
Oh, it's nice. It's like
we're out of time. Yo, so
good for a year. So
Yo.
Nice sound.
Yo, we'll come back to this again as well, and I'm also going to send out more about word order because we're going to work on that too. But wie allemaal is given the Vergnügen zu sein euch alle.
Yeah.
Und ihr werdet bekommen a Blitzbrief, an E-Mail, ja, a Blitzbrief von mir, sehr bald. Und wir wollen sich sehen.
Und a schönen Dank für dir. Das ist gewesen Vergnügen. Und ich lerne sich viel.
Und das kann ich kommen, die Woche, die andere Woche. Kann ich nicht kommen.
Nicht gedeiget.
One last announcement. I know that I said I would bring it up earlier. If you want to come to the concert, I know I've spoken to most of you about this on Sunday. Register on shyloopsin.org. You can do it if you. I know that some of you are unable to make it. Some of you are.
What's the concert?
Pardon me? We have a Kristallnacht commemoration at 2 p.m. on Sunday.
Kristallnacht, oh, I see.
And we have discounted parking for you, Gene, if you want to come from the suburbs.
Vielen Dank.
So, Mark, if you want to come too, be happy to have you.
All right,
We have
thanks.
some really excellent performers, Yiddish and klezmer.
Oh, it's Yiddish. Okay, I see.
So,
Not all Yiddish, some.
What's a guten Woche allen? Ich gehe.
Ja,
Ich gehe.
gute Woche, gay.
Ja, ja.
Hat einen guten Abend und wir werden uns sehen, wenn wir sehen sich Donnerstag after. Gut. Seid mir gesund.
all right.
Sei gesund.
Seid gesund, a gute Woche.
Sei gesund.
See everybody later.